Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next edition of the the Experienced Evolve webinar series. I work in employee experience, and oftentimes I say employee experience, but in Experience Evolve really is about organizations and how they can evolve the way they lead, support, and connect with people that matter the most. And that does not necessarily mean employee experience. It can mean client experience, patient experience, customer experience, even partners and vendors too. It's any human interaction that a company has. This is a webinar that has been designed to tackle those real world challenges and the opportunities that leaders face when they're creating more intentional, human-centered experiences. So if you missed any of the previous webinars that we had, they're all available on SamanthaElizabeth.com, and then go to Experienced Evolved and you'll see all of the webinars there. So today, we're actually digging into one of the toughest challenges that leaders face, and that's hiring great people without burning out your teams or losing candidates in the shuffle. And that happens very often for a lot of employers. There could be slow processes, endless back and forth, and manual work, not only that frustrates the recruiters and managers, but it drives away top talent. So our focus today is actually on AI automation that can remove friction while keeping people at the center and helping organizations hire faster, smarter, and more humanely. So I'm Samantha Elizabeth. Just to introduce myself, I am the founder of Samantha Elizabeth Coaching and Consulting. I've spent 23 years in the corporate life doing employee experience and client experience. And I left corporate so I can help other organizations and individuals create more meaningful, people-centered strategies, whether it's through leadership coaching, workplace culture consulting, or designing a holistic experience strategies. I help teams move from insight to impact. And my work is rooted in the belief for real transformation that starts with understanding how people actually experience your organization, then using that truth to build something better. So as you can see, I have a guest on the webinar today, and I'm joined by Mansa Latham, an expert in AI automation and the founder of Chiro.io, or thechiro.io, as you can see in his name tag. He is an HR tech startup, or the company is rather an HR tech startup working with businesses and nonprofits to modernize recruiting. Mansa helps leaders to see where their hiring processes break down, and more importantly, how to fix them. From designing clean intake processes to introducing AI tools that eliminate repetitive work, he focuses on solutions that keep people at the center while speeding up time to hire. With experiences spanning from pharma, tech, energy, and beyond, he brings a practical, grounded perspective on what actually works in the real world. Mansa, I'm so glad to have you here today. And before we kick off, I want to know, do you want to add anything to that?
No, it's a perfect intro, Sam, as always. And it's my pleasure to be here with you. I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, let's go ahead and dive into the topic of the day after that kind of long intro there. So I do want to talk about the problem, because the problem is obviously within hiring. So what signals tell you a company is hiring, that their hiring process is actually breaking down?
Great question. So if you're a business owner and you're finding that, among other things, you can't sleep at night, that might be a really great indicator that you should be revisiting your hiring practices, because the truth in business is that your company is either growing or it's shrinking. And so as the business owner or the business leader, it's your responsibility to maintain that consistent growth. So if you ever find yourself focusing on more operations than client acquisition or any other revenue supporting activities, then you and your business are falling short of your potential, and you might need to revisit your hiring practices and focusing on hiring better people for your organization.
Absolutely. It's such an important step in the whole employee or candidate process. So thanks so much for bringing the insight on that. Let's talk about the people challenge. So in your experience, what is the biggest people problem in recruiting right now?
Yeah. The number one challenge employers are facing today is the lack of qualified talent available to fill the open roles on the market. It already takes a long time to hire good people, but with this all-out war on top talent, businesses are being forced to hire subpar talent when they miss out on that top talent. And if that's not bad enough, recruiters are being given smaller and smaller budgets and asked to do more and more. And this is why the LinkedIn gurus out there say if you aren't using AI in your business, then you're already behind in setting your organization up for failure long term.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for the insight too, because that is a problem with the talent, that we have out there. And I know that some recruiters, some companies are looking for the perfect candidate and they have this long list of exactly what they want. And if that person doesn't meet the criteria, they could have requisitions open for years. And I have seen it, before. I started working for a company and they had a requisition open for 5 years because they were searching for the perfect candidate. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, you got to hire somebody that is fit for the culture or has a culture integration, with you, or a culture add is what they call it. But just looking for somebody that is close enough, can you actually develop them in the skills, to be able to help them to be the perfect candidate for that? So that's really important to know about the hiring pool right now. So let's talk about mapping out the current state. So can you walk us through a typical current state map from requisition to day one? Where do you usually see the bottlenecks within that whole process?
So it's going to be the number one bottleneck is going to be top of funnel. It is sifting through the mountain of resumes each job opening receives, where typically more than 70%, 76% of the resumes that an open job rec receives are going to be unqualified. And this is besides the bottleneck of bad workforce planning. So recruitment is still seen as a service-based support function and not a strategic partner. So most hiring is reactionary and not proactive. So when you are hiring reactively rather than proactively, then you're going to be finding yourself with a time crunch of trying to hire good talent, which is, as we mentioned before, why most organizations end up settling for lesser talent.
Yeah, definitely. And building up that talent pool within their systems is going to be very critical to that too. That they have people that are interested in the company. Maybe they don't have a role that's available for them right now, but actually building that, and being able to pull from that talent pool. And hopefully that person, is in the market, for a new job at that time. That's really critical. I know I'm subscribed to a lot of companies just to see kind of what roles, they're looking for. And they're constantly throwing roles, that absolutely would be a perfect fit for me. But, I'm not looking for a job in particular. I'm just, keeping a lookout for those particular companies and seeing if I can help, if possible.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So, as a lot of people know, for the Experience Evolve framework, we have 4 different components. We have the discover phase, which is where we gather all the data, all of the feedback, and then we look at it to be able to make those improvements. And then the design phase is taking all of that and putting it into something that would be very helpful for people. And then implement and then analyze everything you've done just to make sure that you've met your goals, that if you need to make any adjustments. So we're going to focus on the discover phase here for a little bit. But how do you run a clean discover phase for hiring without stalling everything? Because you can get bogged down in all of the data and the feedback.
So let's say that you're a pharmaceutical firm and you've proactively completed your workforce planning because you're a people force organization. Well, the next step is to put on your sales and marketing hat and understand that just like with sales and marketing, when it comes to recruiting, only about 3 to 10% of your ideal target hires are going to be actually in the buy box. And when I say buy box, I mean that at any given time, they are actively seeking new opportunities. So
Mm,
businesses need to be doing proactive outreach to build a pipeline of talent that can be brought in to the organization as needed. And so budgets change over time, timelines change over time, but proactive outreach heals all wounds. And it is really the difference between organizations that are able to, at will, go out and get top talent and those organizations that fall short. And as we said before, have to settle for the lesser talent.
yes, thank you. Let's talk about the design phase now. So, what decision rights and rubrics matter most when designing a smart hiring process?
So if you want to be a world class organization with world class talent, you have to start at the beginning and create a vision for the type of talent you want to bring into your organization. And the key here is not hiring for talent that can perhaps help you right away within the next 3 months, but hiring talent that can help you win 2 to 3 years from now. So you will be astonished by how many businesses hire reactively and miss the opportunity to
Mhm.
hire proactively.
Yeah.
And so to not consider emerging skill sets that you want your candidates to have, or to not create a dream 100 list of your most ideal candidate profiles for leadership positions, you're really missing a huge opportunity to make your organization world class.
I love that. Proactively hiring. Those people that you hire may not make the impact today because, especially if they're in a strategy role and they're building something that's going to be effective a year from now, 2 years from now, but at least it's growing your business in the right direction. So that's great. Good. Let's talk about AI again. So, which AI use cases deliver the fastest impact from intake co-pilots, from sourcing, screening summaries, scheduling interview notes, or compliance checks?
That's a great question. So, I understand the question that you asked, but what I really heard was, will AI replace recruiters? And the answer is a little bit. So my company is the Chiro.io, and the Chiro stands for Chief HR Officer. And
Mhm.
so we use AI recruiting software to help organizations hire faster. And there are two things that we do that our clients are saying are game changers for them. First, we use our platform, our AI platform, to highlight the candidate resumes that
Mm,
best fit the open job descriptions. And I'm not just talking about keyword matching, but actually weighing problem and solution fit and the impact of a solution on the organization. And
mm,
in addition to that, we also use the AI to complete the initial screening interviews. So combined, we are able to deliver qualified candidates to the inbox of hiring managers in real time and at a fraction of the time and the cost as if they did that manually themselves.
I'm going to add a bonus question in here because as you were talking, I thought of something. So, when you're talking about the screening process and how AI can actually do that screening process without giving away any secrets, obviously, to your business, how does that work?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, we all know at a base level what we want into a role, but what changes over time is how we cultivate talent inside of our organization. And the number one way, here's the big secret here, the number one way that this changes over time is during performance management season.
Mm,
So during that performance management season, you're going to have calibrations. And in those calibrations, is typically when you're going to have all of your people managers sitting in a virtual room and discussing all of their talent, giving ratings for their talent, but then more importantly than the ratings, explaining the decision making behind why a people leader attached a rating. So the what and the why they attached the rating to a specific direct report. And
mm,
as you do that throughout an entire organization, what happens is a profile emerges
mm,
of the best talent that's going to be successful within our organization. And
Mm,
so within some organizations, certain outcomes may be acceptable or even exceeding expectation, but within other organizations, those same actions that might be exceeding expectation might just be the norm. And
mm,
so you're going to take that data away from your performance management season, and typically in most organizations, that data goes nowhere, right? It's not used ever again. They might refer to it when they have performance conversations between managers and employees, but typically that's where it ends. But what we do is we take those insights and then go back to our job descriptions and our candidate profiles, and we bake those insights and update our job profiles so that we're not hiring talent that's just going to be meeting expectation, but now we can proactively find the profiles of talent that are going to enter our organization and be most likely to be exceeding expectation based off what they do in terms of their work and how they accomplish it.
yeah, that's great. I'm glad you actually talked about performance management too, because that is something that a lot of managers struggle with, making those notes on employees, being as thorough as possible, but not too thorough, that it's like, pages of notes, on a particular employee. But that's great. Actually, in a couple of weeks, I'll be having another webinar, about performance management and using AI in that process too. So that'll be very exciting to kind of dive into that a little deeper. So let's
Absolutely.
talk about trust and guardrails. What guardrails help prevent bias and allow leaders to trust AI assisted decisions?
For sure. The funniest thing is that when it comes to bias already exists within people management, right?
Yeah.
With human beings. And so, as an example of this, I once needed to spend time explaining to a people leader that I was consulting that it was not appropriate to give one employee a higher compensation change, a higher compensation consideration change after performance reviews than another employee just because they had a more advanced degree than this employee, even though they had the same ratings in terms of performance inside of the organization, right? So it is very easy to be biased in our decision making, which
Mm,
is something that I think actually AI solves for. Now,
yeah.
AI is not perfect. To my point that I made earlier in regards to cultivating your models and your profiles over time based off of the data, as an example from performance reviews, that
Mhm.
information is what's going to train the AI model for the future to make it as unbiased as possible. So bias already exists, but I feel as though AI is just a tool, neither good nor bad. But done correctly, I think that it can go a long way towards actually eliminating those bias over human error, where our hearts are in the right place, even though our minds might not be there as well.
Yeah, I mean, AI doesn't have an inherent bias there, but we as people do, based on our past experiences,
Mhm.
consult with companies and even coach with people individually. I often point them to the Harvard implicit bias testing that they do. It is a testing where you sit down and you figure out what your biases are, and it's not to shame you or anything within your biases. It's just for you to be aware. Do you prefer a female manager over a male manager, and why? Those kind of things pop up, and that is something, especially that is really critical in the hiring process, that you're not geared towards, okay, this person went to this school, so therefore they're a good person, right? Or they have this past experience, but they're lacking in this one little thing, they're not going to be good either. There's so many different biases out there. And so I do point people to that. I do help people to understand their unconscious bias. I'm very open about my unconscious bias as well, too. When I'm talking to people, because I want them to help to correct me. And that's what we should be doing with hiring managers too, is giving them that education, giving them that knowledge of themselves, because that's what it is. Unconscious bias is unconscious. Like, we don't know that we are putting labels on people, or, that we are not happy with somebody because of what they did, but because of a past experience or something. So
Yeah,
there's just,
absolutely.
there's so much behind that. And yeah, that is great. That AI can really help with that, to be able to help hiring managers actually hire the right person, for the job, taking out all of those biases. Good. All right, so let's talk about industry examples. So, can you share some examples where automation improved both speed and the candidate experience?
Yeah. So, we've worked with brands across all sectors, and the results are pretty consistent that using AI and automation in hiring talent, we are able to eliminate the need to manually search and screen candidates, saving businesses 10 to 20 hours per requisition, and at a significantly lower cost than using traditional recruiting, which I should say, using traditional outside recruiters or agencies, which will typically be charging 20 to 30% in commission fees. As far as our organization, we have subject matter experts across all business functions, and from frontline employees to business leaders. And so we are ready to, together with an organization, whether they be big or small, be able to be a trusted partner to guide an organization in the right way in terms of hiring the best people for that organization's success.
I love that you bring up, small and big organizations, because a lot of people think that this technology, this knowledge and everything is for bigger corporations, to be able to sift through that. But smaller companies, go through the same thing. And if they can set themselves up correctly, the first time, and build that great foundation, then they're setting themselves up for long-term success.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about now the implement phase, kind of continuing on our journey of, to discover and design, implement, and analyze. So, what does a 30-day pilot look like? What needs to be on the team to make it successful during the implementation phase?
Because we use AI and automation, within 30 days, we typically have candidates available to be reviewed and hired. And typically, we always have referral candidates available for a new open job rec. And it's the reason why we have this is because we would have leftover candidates from the job searches, the talent search that we do with other organizations. And it's not that they're bad or subpar talent. It's just that we just have great talent across the board, and another organization happened to hire a specific talent, which just left additional candidates left over. So in terms of that first 30 days, like I said, we are proactively sending qualified candidates to the inboxes of hiring managers, and being able to really cut in half the time it takes to get to the same point of starting a new search from scratch.
It's wonderful. Well, good. And that's good news for hiring managers too. Let's talk about the analyze phase now. So this is kind of the last phase, but of course it's cyclical. So, it goes around again. So how do you think that you measure success beyond time to hire? Do you measure anything from the candidate net promoter score, or the manager satisfaction, or even the 90-day retention?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely collect a lot of data in regards to our job rec searches. So, in order to assess good hiring practices, in addition to KPIs like time to hire and net promoter score, we highlight cost to hire, to not show ourselves. To not only just show our value as a trusted partner in comparison to alternatives, but also to highlight the savings, which can be reinvested into the new hires that an organization brings into their organization in order to ensure their success over time. So beyond cost to hire, we look at offer acceptance rates, because ghosting is an epidemic. And the number one reason why our clients come to us to source their talent for them is because they end up wasting a lot of time and money just to try to hire candidates, and then those candidates never start and they get ghosted. So there is nothing worse than whining and dining your number one talent crush to just not have them show up on day one. And so that is an example among other KPIs that we track over time, just to show our impacts and show organizations that they now have more resources to reinvest back into their workforce.
Oh, that's wonderful. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what technology and AI can really do for you, is to create that efficiency so that way you can do the higher value work. That's great. So let's talk about the pitfalls and quick wins. So what are some common mistakes organizations make, and what should they do instead?
The number one mistake that people leaders are making within their organization is hiring talent just to say that they hired that talent, and to um, essentially move on with the job record. So it's almost like a mentality of, let me hire talent just to say, job well done, we got this done, and let's move on to the next rec. Business leaders embrace this comfort zone, but they have to understand that um, it has gotten them to where what has gotten them to where they are today isn't going to be what's going to get them to where they want to be in the future. And so really, a lot of leaders I find need to do what I call like a start, stop, continue. Let's identify what is working. Let's continue to do those things. But let's also identify the things that perhaps aren't working, that we're doing cyclically, so that we can just say and agree we're not going to be doing these things anymore. And that's kind of what I was mentioning before, to just stop doing the things that we've always done, because that's just how we've always done things that way. And so then now that we've stopped doing those things, now we have a lot more extra energy to reinvest in other places. And so now let's find out where the fruit is, that we can take our additional energy, reinvest, change our strategy to make a bigger impact on the organization long term.
Yeah. I mean, as Ross Geller says on Friends, pivot, pivot, pivot. That's what companies need to do. Like, always goes through my mind anytime we think about, something stopping, or, something, unexpected happening. It's always pivot, for people. All right. So last question before we go to final thoughts. I want to talk about actionable advice. So if a leader could fix only one step this quarter, which one is the biggest return?
Yeah, great question. So this is impossible to answer for all businesses, because all businesses have different problems. But here is my advice: go to the Cheerio.io. That is www.thechero/assessments, and sign up for a free gap analysis. This will help you identify what your business needs are and what you should be focusing on first and prioritizing first in order to make the biggest impact on your business. That's my number one advice to do this quarter.
Yeah, well, great. And that is absolutely wonderful. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes so everybody has the link to that. So, Mansa, any final thoughts here? So maybe share one takeaway or your favorite quick win, or any advice that you have for leaders starting to modernize their hiring process.
For sure. So when it comes to whatever you do, there's always what you do and how you do it. And AI now is available to be able to do a lot of what you do. So then now you get back more time and more energy that you can pour back into the how you do things. And when I say how you do things, that's being able to refocus on things like engagement and culture, and making lasting connections with your workforce to make them stay longer and make them excited about coming to work every single day. So I, for one, am super excited about AI. It's the main focus, or I should say the bedrock of the Cheerio.io. And so reach out, and look forward to being able to partner with all of you.
Wonderful. Well, good. Well, you gave us our website. Can you give us the website one more time, and I'll also put it in the show notes too?
For sure. It's going to be the Cheerio.io. That's www.thechero.io.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining this webinar. I really hope that you learned something new and got some ideas good, for your talent, for your hiring talent. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm slipping up today. So this is going to conclude the webinar, but I do want to make sure that everybody knows how to connect with Mansa, how to connect with myself if you are looking for somebody to improve your overall employee or even client, partner, and vendor experience. So thank you all so much for being here. And Mansa, once again, any final words?
I thank you again for the invitation to join you today. I always look forward to our conversations and looking forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Well, great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the webinar today. Experience Evolved is for leaders and other people who care about employee, client, partner, vendors, and beyond experience. We have a framework, a newsletter, webinars, videos, and a podcast coming soon, and other helpful content. If you missed any of our previous content, you can go to SamanthaElizabeth.com and look for Experience Evolved.